Welcome to the Times of Israel's What Matters Now. I'm your host, Amanda Borschel-Dan, here with Tal Dahan, a volunteer journalist at this year, the 2025 Eurovision in Basel. Hi, Tal. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Amanda. How are you?
I'm well, and thank you so much for joining me. We are just after the first semifinal. Israel is meant to compete tomorrow night in the second semifinal, and the final is, of course, late night on Saturday, late night for old people like me. So we are going to discuss Israel's history in the Eurovision and the politics surrounding it when we're back. And we're back. I'm Amanda Borschel-Dan here with Tal Dahan from the Euromix website. She is reporting on site in Basel. First of all, Tal, before we dive into the ins and outs and the history of the Eurovision, just tell me, what is the atmosphere like right now in Basel for you?
Okay, it's actually really complicated because I see a lot of protests against us, of course, pro-Palestinian protests outside. For example, in the turquoise carpet, the opening ceremony, there were a lot of them. And other than that, I've actually experienced a lot of love from the Swiss people. Some of them apologized and they told us that they're just extremists and not the majority.
All right. So I think for our North American listeners, we need to back up a second, and I should have done this to start the program, and just describe what this Eurovision Song Contest is. Honestly, until I moved to Israel in 1999, I'd never heard of it, though Israel has been participating in it since 1973, and I believe this is the 69th year of the Eurovision, which started, I think, in Switzerland. Is that right?
Yeah, it started in Switzerland in 1956. And in the first Eurovision, there were only 7 countries. Now there are 37. And every year it's different because countries withdraw or join the contest. And yes, Israel is participating from 1973, which is insane because we're not even in Europe. Also, Australia joined in 2015. But other than that, European countries take part in the contest. And the purpose of the contest is bringing Europe together and showing love, and the slogan is United by Music. So that's what it's all about. And it's all about the music, but not only nowadays.
Right, and not even from the beginning, because as you said, the idea was to bring Europe together. That was in 1956, as you said. And of course, Europe had just suffered World War II. It was still recovering. The Cold War was still going on, of course, and bringing these countries together made it a bit of a diplomacy through music, shall we say. And these core 7 countries, if I'm not mistaken, are automatically sent to the finals. Is that the case, Tal?
Okay, so there are big 5 countries. That's what they called: Italy, Germany, France, Spain, and United Kingdom. These are the big 5 countries. And along with the host country, they automatically qualify for the finals because they massively fund the contest. So that's why they're in the finals automatically. But nowadays, they perform also in the semifinals. So the audience can see them before they can vote for them.
And it's interesting right now. I mean, the voting situation changes all the time, but it seems to me that right now the situation is that in the semifinal, it's only popular voting, aside from these big 5, granddaddy people who are funding all the contest through their public broadcaster, which we should discuss in a second. But aside from these big 5, the people vote who go up to the finals. And then in the finals, the voting seems to be half-half, right? It's public voting and professional voting. So you saw last night's semifinal. Who made it to the next stage?
Okay, so from the semifinals, 10 countries make it to the final. It doesn't matter if there are 18 participating countries in the semifinal or 15. Last night there were 15 countries, and 10 of them qualified for the finals. There are Norway, Albania, Sweden, Iceland, the Netherlands, Poland, San Marino, Estonia, Portugal, and Ukraine. We were pretty much shocked by the results because there are also betting odds for the contest, and it didn't fit with the actual result pretty much. But yeah, we were shocked.
Right. The betting is its own subject. And there are, of course, bookies who are taking bets,
Yes.
and they're, of course, playing the odds and things of that nature. But as far as I understand it, Sweden, which has won the Eurovision, I don't know, more than any other country. Is that true? I don't know. But Sweden is so far
Tied with Ireland.
tied with Ireland. Okay. So Sweden right now, as I understand it, with their sauna-driven song, is in the first place in terms of the odds. But which country passed through last night that was unexpected?
So surprisingly for us, Iceland and Portugal, who were pretty low in the betting odds, they're also betting odds for the semifinal, and they weren't even close to qualify according to them. So yeah, that was very surprising. And Belgium and Cyprus, who were sure qualifiers, didn't qualify.
Oh, very interesting. So Israel, as we said, began participating in 1973, and Israel has won, if I'm not mistaken, 4 times. Is that right, Tal?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go through the different wins for Israel.
Okay, the first win was in 1978. Izhar Cohen with the song Abani B, such an iconic song. It was a very dancey song, and he sang in the Bet language. I don't know how to translate it, but he added the letter B in Hebrew a lot of times. So it was very iconic, and there was a dance break there, which we now see a lot. The second one was a year later.
Wait, before you move on to the next song, just to explain to our listeners, Yitzhak Cohen is this Taimani, a Yemenite individual who had an iconic Jew fro as well when he participated. His hair was massive. And as you mentioned, there was a dance break, which was unusual-ish at that time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And Abani Bia Boabe, it's kind of a child's language, so that people, a bit of a code so that people don't understand what you're saying. And the point of the song is basically that he's saying, I love you. So it's a very cute song. All right, let's move on to our next contestant.
The next Israeli winner was actually a year later, in 1979, Gali Atari and Chalav Udvash, Milk and Honey band. They won with the song Hallelujah, which is such an anthem. And it was in Jerusalem. The contest was in Jerusalem. The voting was so close, but at the end, Israel won again, but couldn't host the next Eurovision, unfortunately. So the Netherlands actually hosted in 1980, the year after Israel won. And our next win was in 1998 with Dana International and Diva, which was such a historical moment for the LGBT community in Israel and in Europe. And that's where the contest began being like more LGBT friendly, and a lot of gay artists participated in the contest and were out and stuff like that. And also it was very huge for the community in Israel.
For sure. So Dana International is a trans singer. She came to notoriety with the Eurovision, but even prior to the Eurovision in Israel, she was a known figure, of course, and that's one of the reasons why she won. And it was Viva la Diva. Is that the name of the song? Yes.
Diva.
Right. And she,
but yeah,
Diva.
That's how it went.
But yes, exactly. Viva la Diva is the chorus. And she, of course, appeared with, huge feathers. And it was the most campiness you could see possibly on stage. Just really fascinating. And so that was when? When was that?
98.
1998. And then our next win was only with Netta Barzilai.
Exactly. In 2018.
Wow. Okay. So Netta Barzilai, of course, is also a LGBTQ plus favorite. She's an ally. And her song Toy was notable for its use of I can't remember the name of it. What is it called? Where she records herself and then it comes back.
Looper.
The looper. Yes. So it was Netta Barzilai and the Barzilai Orchestra is, I think, how she billed herself. Is that right, Tal?
Yes, but she was not allowed to do it live. So there were two actually three backing vocalists who were doing it with her. One of them was actually her dancer, and two of them was backstage singing. And nowadays, it is allowed to do like a recorded backing vocals, and a lot of countries use it.
Right. So Israel was a pioneer on that, but not allowed to actually use the technology. So, okay. So just so I have it clear in my head, because forgive me, I'm not great at math, but we have Yizar Cohen, we have Gali Atari, and then we have Dana International, and then we have Netta Barzilai. And Israel has sent really a huge variety of different acts to the Eurovision, as does every country. I mean, it is the wildest thing. You can see people who look like the Kiss singers, heavy metal, and then you have these, ballads with a piano and, the moonlight shining on them. It is just the weirdest, most random assembly of pop music together.
Absolutely.
And what would you say was one of the most strange acts that Israel has sent in the past, since we began?
Okay, so one of them is definitely T-Pex from 2007. It's a very known band in Israel. They have great songs, but to Eurovision, they sent such a random song. They didn't qualify for the finals. The song was called Push the Button, which is very, has a political meaning, but not very expressed, I guess. So they were the song went like, push the button, and the visuals were so extreme, and I can't even describe it because it was chaotic on stage. Another one was in 2000 with Ping Pong and the song Be Happy. It's not very known for best in Israel because people remember they waved an Israeli and a Syrian flag during the performance. The performance included many stuff, including the first gay kiss on stage in the Eurovision Song Contest.
Israel is such a pioneer, right?
Exactly. I don't think many Israeli people know that. But also, I think the shortest skirt in the Eurovision history, something like that. Very, very random. The vocals weren't on point, I have to say. And they reached 2 places before last, something like that.
Wow. That is remarkable. And other notable acts that I remember is Sarit Haddad, who here in Israel is a megastar. I think she kind of tanked in the Eurovision as well with her Light a Candle song. Achinoam Nini and Mira Awad, they had this coexistence thing going, which maybe this year actually, honestly, could do really well. Other acts of really famous people. And then Israel seemed to turn to this idea of choosing the candidate through a variety program, or a variety of variety programs, actually.
Yeah.
Weren't there a couple different reality shows that chose the candidate? So tell us about when Israel pivoted to that.
Okay, so in 1973, it was actually the singer herself, Ilanit, who suggested the Israeli broadcaster to participate in Eurovision, because Germany actually suggested her a year earlier in 72 to represent them, and she actually checked and saw that Israel can participate in the contest. And after that, Kaveret, also a very huge band in Israel, and then Shlomo Artzi, they were selected by the broadcaster, also Chocolate Menta Mastic, a very famous band as well. Ilanit was selected again in 77, and then in 78, the pre-Eurovision selection started in Israel and was very huge. It was such a huge show in Israel, and everyone watched it. I wasn't born there, of course, but I know that it was a very popular show. Every artist wanted to take part, and people who were taking part there became very famous. There were also songs came last, and they're still famous nowadays, like Halevai by Boaz Sharabi.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, a lot of songs are very known from there. And then throughout the years, they tried different things. Sometimes a committee chose the song. Sometimes, like in the last few years, the Rising Star reality show is selecting the artist, and then a committee is selecting a song. So they are like matching like that, and it seems like it works. because we pretty much qualified for the finals with this selection every year, except for 2022 when it was with X Factor. And yeah, there were such a variety of ways to select a Eurovision act.
Okay, we are going to go to a short break, and then we're going to turn to the less light side of our program, which is, of course, the politics surrounding the contest itself. And we're back. I'm Amanda Borschel-Dan here with Tal Dahan discussing the Eurovision. This year's candidate is Yuval Raphael, who notably was a survivor of the Nova Festival massacre on October 7th, 2023. She survived by hiding under a pile of corpses in a bunker until she was actually rescued by a father of another person inside that bunker. Her story is incredibly moving. Her voice is fantastic. I mean, there's no doubt that she belongs on the stage through her own merit. And last year, of course, we had Aidan Golan, who was booed, who was protested against at the Eurovision in Malmö, which is known to be an anti-Semitic hotbed in Sweden. So there was no surprise there. And now we're seeing similar situations in Basel, where notably, of course, the first Zionist Congress was held many, many years ago with Theodor Herzl. But we're seeing as well a difference, it appears to me, in terms of the way that the Eurovision is handling this anti-Semitism, including, for example, the fact that the Palestinian flag can now be waved inside the auditorium. Is that correct, Tal?
Yeah, it is correct. For the first time in the contest history, like even the national final of Finland, they were showing a Palestinian flag there. And when the EBU, the European Broadcasting Union, published the winning song, the song that is going to Eurovision, they censored the Palestinian flag and they used the dress rehearsal for what they shown on the YouTube channel. And there were a lot of examples of people trying to bring the Palestinian flag to the Eurovision. Also, the Icelandic representatives in Eurovision 2019, which was in Israel, they waved the Palestinian flags in the green room, and then they couldn't censor it because it was live. But also last year it was banned bringing the Palestinian flag, and this year the Swiss production wanted to do it different and allow people to express whatever they want and bring pretty much which flag, whatever flag they want, except for like terrorist flags. So there were some Palestinian flags last night in the semi-final and also in the turquoise carpet, the opening ceremony. And we kind of feel uncomfortable with it, but we're trying to get used to it because we know we're gonna see a lot of them in the semifinal that Israel is participating in, and also in the finals.
Right. The flag itself is obviously not threatening. It is a flag, but what accompanies it is potentially intent to disrupt the program, which we heard from Aidan Golan that she did hear the boos in her earphones while she was trying to perform. And it did, of course, influence the way she could perform on stage, though she was such a beacon of fortitude. I thought she was so calm and collected, seemingly at least. But we're hearing now this year that it did affect her. She feels like it did affect her. And what's interesting about this year's candidate, Yuval Raphael, is she's already expecting it. And I think it appears to me she's a person who's been through so much that she just feels like, who cares? Bring it on. What is your impression of Yuval Raphael?
First of all, Yuval Raphael is such an amazing person, such an amazing artist, and she's not a professional singer, actually. When she participated in The Rising Star, the reality show for Eurovision, it was her first time on stage. And it doesn't seem like that because she's very professional and she sings beautifully. Actually, in the rehearsal that we saw on the Eurovision stage. She wasn't really accurate with her vocals, but maybe she's keeping it for the live and for the important rehearsals. I don't know. I hope so. And yeah, she's such an amazing person.
Okay, let's talk about the song itself. New Day Will Rise, which to any native English speaker sounds just strange and wrong, I would have to say. And there were actually some problems with the Hebrew, as far as I understand as well. Can you take us through that mini scandal?
Yes. Okay. So the sentence in Hebrew is מים רבים לא יכבו את האהבה ונהרות לא ישטפוה. And then I can't really translate it. It's from Shir HaShirim. How do you translate it in English?
The Song of Songs? It's
Song of Songs, exactly.
right. Mm-hmm.
So in one word, she sang veneharot instead of uneharot. So then people corrected her, and a day after or a few days later, she recorded a different version, like the version with the correct pronunciation of that specific word, and that's what she's singing right now.
What's interesting, of course, is that the song is almost entirely not in Hebrew. And so you would hope that basically one sentence in Hebrew, right, that she would get that right, or that her people would make sure she would get it right. But the song is mostly in English, and Israel's songs have lately, or for many, many years, mostly been in English. She also sings a bit in French, which she knows from her time in Switzerland, correct?
Yeah, she actually lived in Geneva for a few years when she was younger. So she speaks French, and actually the French part in the song is, I think it's exactly like the English, an English part of the song. So it's like translated, and then the Hebrew is completely different. So she sings in 3 different languages, which is impressive in my opinion. And she sings beautifully in 3 languages.
She really does. And the song was written by Keren Pellis, is that correct?
Yes.
So tell us who she is.
Keren Pellis is such a famous artist in Israel. She's a famous singer. She has a lot of years of career behind her and very famous songs. She also wrote last year's song, Hurricane by Eden Golan. And now it's the second year she was chosen to represent Israel with her song, like as a composer and songwriter.
And this comes after candidates such as Noah Kirel, who is a very famous Israeli singer. I think she's trying to make a go of an international career as well. And she had, I would say, a very silly song, Unicorn. So I guess the hope for Israel and the hope for any country is to be able to send these unicorn style songs versus New Day Will Rise. So Tal, what do you expect from tomorrow night in terms of Yuval's performance? You're already saying that you hope she sings a bit more in tune, and we all hope that. But what else do you think will happen during her performance?
We've seen some videos and photos from the rehearsal, and it looks in stage because she has a huge prop. I think the biggest prop on stage this year. It looks like a chandelier, and it's also referencing Herzl when he's standing in Basel. And it's such a beautiful reference, in my opinion. And I really hope she sings as the studio version. I hope. And there was a high note there in the end of the song, and I hope she nails it live. I'm sure she's gonna represent us, and we're all gonna be proud of her because her story is we can't ignore her story. And I think also the European people and people outside of Europe, maybe they feel connected to her story, and maybe they feel the need to vote for her.
Right. And so the question is, I believe that Israel is not allowed to vote for her. Is that right? And only the country where you're not from can vote for you. Is that still the case? Or how does the voting work?
Yeah, you're not allowed to vote for your own country.
Right. So Israel cannot vote for her. And so since Israel is a very controversial country on the world stage. Is there any buzz about an effort to torpedo Yuval Raphael's performance? Meaning, is there some kind of movement to make sure that she is not voted for, to vote for other candidates in order to make sure she does not go to the finals? Or the opposite? Have you heard of any kind of efforts from, I don't know, diaspora communities abroad? Jews are such a minority in every single country, but is there some kind of effort to, yes, bring out the vote for Yuval Raphael?
Of course, there are people who try to say ban Israel from Eurovision and try to do everything they can to disclude us from the contest. Fortunately, we are participating, and people cannot vote against a song, only for a song, which means Yuval Raphael, in my opinion, are going to get a lot of votes because also last year people felt the need when they saw the boos that Eden got. They felt the need to vote for her and like for justice, vote for her. And she came second in the televote, which was insane. We were all shocked. And 12th, I think, in the jury vote. And some of them actually said that they didn't vote for Israel because of political reasons, and they are not allowed to do it. It was such a shame, in my opinion. So Yuval Raphael, when she is going on stage, I think also the delegation wants to make sure that people outside of Israel, maybe Jewish community, also people in the rest of the world can vote now. In the United States and in other countries, they can vote as well. So I don't know if they are funding something to do it, but I know they talk with a lot of people, and trying to convince people outside of Israel to vote, and I'm sure they will make it.
Yes. Okay. So, listeners, you are now able to vote for Yuval Raphael if you don't live in Israel. So, do as your conscience decides, obviously. So, Tal, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Amanda. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure is mine. Thanks for listening to The Times of Israel's What Matters Now. Please check out another installment next week. This episode was produced by The Podwaves and video edited by Thomas Gersh. If you have any questions or comments about this or any other episode, please drop us an email to podcast@timesofisrael.com. Until next week, shalom.